20 years ago on this day, an underwater earthquake measuring 9 on the Richter scale hit the Indonesian islands. And 2 hours later, a wall of water, a tsunami, traveled across the Indian Ocean, flattening coastlines and killing people on an unprecedented scale. 230,000 people died in the tsunami in 15 countries. Over 16,000 Indians were killed. The Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami was the 21st century's deadliest natural catastrophe. In fact, it's one of the deadliest cataclysms of all time. India failed to react to the tsunami then because we had no early warning system, neither for earthquakes nor for tsunamis triggered by earthquakes. 20 years later, extreme weather events are increasing. So how prepared are we to handle this kind of a disaster? Joining me today are two experts, Major General V.K. Datta, who was with the NDMA for decades, and Commodore Shrikant Kesnur, naval veteran and historian. And in the studio I have with me my colleague Deepak Badana. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. General Datta, I want to start by asking you this. In 2024, extreme weather events are increasing. Do you see the possibility of a 2004 tsunami kind of incident happening again? This is something that you trained for at the NDMA. You were there for over a decade. Tell us what your prediction is on the likelihood of such an incident happening again.
Sandeep, your first question, that can an incident like that happen? Yes, it can. In fact, in the entire early warning system today, all over the world, the only thing we cannot actually predict is an earthquake.
Yes.
The only early warning we get for an earthquake is not more than about 30 odd seconds, which is detected by seismic detectors, which will let you have sirens getting activated.
Yes.
Or they'll send you automatic SMS to see that earthquake is going to strike.
Right.
Now, when an earthquake strikes, two waves are generated. One is the primary wave,
Yes.
and the next is a secondary wave. So this 30 seconds warning is only possible by the help of the seismic detectors. And if you are very alert and you practice your drills, if you know that siren which has gone off
Yes.
is actually indicating earthquake, maybe then you can run out of the building.
I'm going to come to you about this point about the 30-second, the time that we have and the earthquake drills in a moment. But I want to bring in Commodore Kesnur in on this. Commodore Kesnur, the Indian Navy kind of came into its own after the 2004 tsunami because it was one of the first responders to the countries around the Indian Ocean region. You had warships speedily, dispensing assistance around the Indian Ocean rim countries. But tell us now, 20 years later, what the protocols are for the Indian Navy to respond to the event in the event of a crisis of this nature.
Yes, I mean, as you brought out, we responded with alacrity at that time. And if I remember the figures right, I think about 32 ships and about 5,000 personnel and aircraft, mobilized within a span of 24 to 36 hours. Look, as far as the protocols are concerned, they would by and large remain the same because the Navy has a system of having, ready ship and aircraft at all times.
Right.
I guess now there is much greater integration with agencies like the National Disaster Management Agency and INCOIS to get early warning of systems.
Yes.
Most importantly, the vulnerable areas have been marked out. So you now have a sense of what might be expected. These are called tsunami-genic zones.
Yes.
So largely in the Andamans and Sumatra and the Magran coast. So therefore, the Navy, has a set of ships, aircraft, people ready at all times, and for multiple disaster. It need not be only for tsunami alone. It could be for a range of things. Also, you are far better prepared in terms of, various other things, be it logistics and supply chain management, be it equipment, the quality of equipment, the quality of ships, the quality of platforms has undergone a huge change since 2004. We got ships like the Jalashwa that I sort of commanded, which are meant for these sort of things. The large LSTs, platforms, much bigger aircraft, bigger ship. So I think on the whole, our capabilities to respond to this has improved. Our communication systems, of course, are much
Right.
faster.
Yes.
So I think all of that collectively will mean that your ability to take off would probably, arguably, be even better than what it was last time. In case such a tragic outcome were to happen, obviously we wouldn't want that to happen.
Right, of course, but we are much better prepared. But Deepak, before I come to you, I'm going to quickly ask General Datta this follow-on question to what he had explained. The fact that it takes just 30 seconds for us to react to a earthquake and a tsunami of the kind that we saw 20 years back. General Datta, explain the kind of protocols that are in place now that would necessitate this kind of a warning being issued, and how would we respond to it? How did the NDMA, that's the agency that was set up after the tsunami, how would it respond to this kind of an incident?
Okay, Sandeep, because your first question was that how much warning do you get for an earthquake? There's a difference between an earthquake and a tsunami striking thereafter. Earthquake, if it happens anywhere in the world, you will just get a 30-second early warning for that earthquake, depending on the depth and the distance of the epicenter. Now, as far as the tsunamis are concerned, once a tsunami occurs because of an earthquake, the location of the tsunami, for example, the 2004 tsunami occurred in Java, Sumatra area of Indonesia.
Yes.
It was a 9.3 on Richter scale. Now, from there, once the earthquake took place, because of the tectonic movement of plates, of the Burma plate and the Indian plate, the earthquake created a massive tsunami which traveled across the Indian Ocean, affecting 14 countries. Now, if it happens in Java, Sumatra area, Indonesia is also known as the Rim of Fire. That is a very active volcanic area. Now, once that tsunami occurs there, and by the time it hits the India's east coast and Andamans, we get a warning of not more than about 90 minutes to 1 hour to Andamans, and maximum 2 hours to the east coast. So today, because of the early warning system, the inquiries and the tsunami early warning systems which have been put in place post 2004, in fact, the inquiries came into existence in 1998.
Right.
But the tsunami early warning system, which has been put in place now, came about in 2007. They've got number of buoys, they've got 300 sensing stations. They are internationally connected now. They are also connected with our satellite systems. So it's the constant monitoring of the sea activity, whether it's the seabed, the rise of waves, and the earthquake taking place. Within 12 minutes, we'll come to know where the earthquake has occurred and how much time will it take for a tsunami, if it gets generated, to hit your coast.
Right.
So it is 2 hours to east coast, 90 minutes to 1 hour to Andamans, and therefore the NDMA, after coming into existence, has now collaborated and calibrated the response mechanism to such an extent that all our east coast states and districts are well aware of this.
Yes.
Communications are in place, protocol by the local state governments, the district authorities, the fishermen villages which are there on the sea coast. There are wireless communication, there are siren systems. They know what to do in case of a tsunami warning, where to run, which is a high ground, where to take shelter. As against a tsunami, if you talk about a cyclone, you get a warning of 72 hours.
Yes.
It can also happen that you get a warning of a cyclone, and in that warning only a tsunami can occur.
Yes.
So therefore, today, the National Disaster Management Authority, along with the inquires and the Tsunami Early Warning Center in Hyderabad, we have done a yeoman service, combining all the agencies, early warning centers, the state emergency operation centers, the National Crisis and Emergency Center in the Ministry of Home, the National Disaster Management Authority control room. So they are all well connected now.
Yes.
We have got satellite communication. Of course, there are other protocols also being followed. So today, we'll get a warning of 1 hour to Andamans, 2 hours to the east coast to evacuate that area before a major tsunami hits.
Right.
And the 2004 tsunami was the biggest earthquake in 21st century and the biggest tsunami.
Yes.
If you are aware, subsequently in 2011, the Fukushima, that is the Japan earthquake, and the Fukushima nuclear disaster also occurred because of a tsunami. So today, the maturing of the NDMA, we had the Agriculture Ministry looking after disaster management till 1999. Then it was given to the Ministry of Home. And after the 2004 tsunami, it was then decided that you need an authority in India,
Yes, it's
and
brought
that
under the PMO.
2005 DM
Yes,
Act,
yes,
2005 DM Act put into place the National Disaster Management Authority, the state disaster management authorities, and the district disaster management authorities, with the collaboration of the response forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, the National Disaster Response Force, the State Disaster Response Force, the NGOs, the civil police, the
yes,
Home Guard, the Coast Guards. Everybody is in sync today.
right.
We carry out massive mock exercises for this every year. Inquest does it, NDMA does it. So that time is now, no, it's a different era now. We
Yes,
are fully prepared and we are fully geared technologically
it's, yes.
and physically by the way of training and understanding and awareness generation with the public. What do you
It's
say?
a different era, as you mentioned, General Datta. And Deepak, the fact is that the ultimate disaster response force in India is the military, the one of the largest militaries in the world, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And it's very wise that the government chose not to set up a parallel a disaster response force. They're leveraging the power of the military to respond to these incidents. But you believe that India is safer today than it was 20 years back when the tsunami hit?
See, here's where we come to a mixed bag. When you look at the measures that have been put in place, yes, we've come a long way since
Yeah.
2004. But we must also understand that today the frequency of erratic weather events
Yes.
is higher than ever. Every single year is hotter than the previous one.
Yes.
And the frequency of cyclones and tsunamis has increased. So, yeah, and again, then you have to look at the subcontinent.
Yes.
The subcontinent, is one of the most densely populated parts on the entire globe.
Absolutely. And
So, yeah, we've got a number of challenges on our hand, and hopefully the measures that have been put in place will work to their full effect.
I'm going to ask this to Commodore Kesnur before we wrap. We're completely out of time. But Commodore Kesnur, closing comments from you. HADR is very critical to the Indian Navy, the humanitarian assistance and disaster responses. Has the Indian Navy been stepping up its HADR responsibilities in the last couple of years, given the frequency of these extreme weather events that Deepak was mentioning?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you've seen since 2004 until now, if you were to put together HADR, NEO, and other such kind of events, I think the Indian Navy has been involved every year or every second year. So obviously, we're building up infrastructure. For example, the decision to have the fleet support ships,
Yes.
perhaps drones will come into a bigger play in future. So I think these things are going to be constantly there, and the Navy is going to play a very important role. One of the things I want to emphasize, Sandeep, taking off from what the two previous speakers said, that HADR consists essentially of response, first preparedness, and second response, and third resilience. I think the Indian Navy contributes in each of these, and particularly when you have issues like tsunami, which happen at sea or from sea, you're going to see a lot more of the Navy as what the Army calls the foot on ground. The
Yes.
Navy would say ships at sea.
Right.
So that's where you come in, and you got to build up capabilities for that
Yes.
constantly, which the Navy is doing.
Absolutely. Boots on the ground and ships out at sea, the Army and the Navy working in concert with, of course, the NDMA. You just heard it from our experts there. The kind of elaborate preparations that have been made, particularly the lessons that were learned after this horrific incident in 2004. Hopefully these kind of casualties would be a thing of the past, and we've learned our lessons, and we've put together protocols, as General Datta was mentioning, to respond very quickly to a tsunami of the kind that hit us in 2004.